So I think my wife is gonna be pretty mad at me when she gets home. I've been digging a new line for power and water to our paddocks because we're doing just some overall workout here. And you know, you would think because I dug these lines that I would know where this stuff is, but I was thinking that the line was further to my left, and I thought, you know, it ran right through here, right through here where there's no digging. So I was gonna come on the other side of it and then kind of try and dig over top to run my new lines and then bring them into the well house. They pretty much run right where the camera is, right through here. So I just nicked the line, but it pulled the whole line, made a complete disaster out of the well house. I've been trying to dig this all back out now since I've already wrecked the line. I'm hoping I didn't hurt the power line, but I may have to put a junction box in here or something now. And there's a mess inside the well house because when I hit the line and I pulled the line, it just pulled everything apart, made a big mess. Water was spraying everywhere. So it looks today like I'll be doing a well repair, pretty major one. So I took the door off so I could get in here. I probably at this point in time need to pull this stuff out and just redo it. Because this is just a complete mess. Oh boy. So what I've got here is a T. This goes into the base of my tank, and then I'm basically screwing onto the T. I've got a faucet so I could drain the tank. I have a basically a valve that, in case there's too much pressure, it's an automatic release valve. I also have a pressure gauge. I like to have that on my well. You don't have to have all that stuff, but I like to try and make sure that everything's on there so I can just walk out, look at the well, and see what I'm doing. Now, I don't know if I'm doing this all correctly. I did it before, and it lasted for several years before I tore it out with a tractor, so I'm assuming that what I'm doing works just fine. What I'm screwing on right now is the check valve. That keeps water from flowing back to my pump. Okay. Now up on top here goes my pump relay switch. So as the pressure gets to a certain point, this kicks on the pump, or as the pressure gets low to a certain point, it kicks on the pump. Okay, I think this is as tight as it's gonna go. Now this long arm over here has a couple of hose attachments, and then it goes out to my plastic piping. I cut this old pipe off. So I finally got everything put back together again yesterday. I have done a video in the past on how to set up your expansion tank T, but so it's not a very difficult thing. But I've got the expansion tank set up. I've got everything hooked back up. I kind of have a loose line out here going to the house because I'm not done digging here, and I'm not burying that until I'm done. In fact, I'm probably just gonna redo the lines going into the well house for the new section I'm doing, as well as to our house, and just put a hydrant out where I'm standing where I broke the line. But let's go and pressurize the system. I didn't pressurize it yesterday, I didn't have enough time, and pressurizing it could be a little bit difficult. I apologize for the wind. It's springtime. It's windy here. It's cold. I don't like the wind chill. I don't mind the cold. I don't like the wind chill. And you guys hear it on the mic. This is our super lovely well house. While I have all this stuff moved around, I'm probably going to go ahead and just clean this thing up. When we bought it, it was kind of like, you know, they stored a bunch of junk in here. But I'm going to probably scrape all this floor up and get everything out of here. And I've got some bricks. I might put some sand in here and do a little bit of brick paving in here. But today I'm most likely going to tear this floor up, digging in the well lines, so I'm not bothering with any of that. This is the tee that comes off of the expansion tank, and along here I have several different things. I've got a couple hose hookups, which originally were, when we were building our house, I had a camper out here, 2 campers, so we had hose hookups right here, and they weren't too far from the well. And then right here I have a valve for just, you know, draining the tank. This is my pressure gauge, which this will kick on and kick off at certain points. This is what I'm going to look at first, because I want to see what this controller is set for. So what I'll do is I'll hook a hose up right here. Hey, Will. Pretty good. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and pick up, you know, 4 or 5 times in your truck and bring it over here, I have an open ticket over there, so you could just charge it to the ticket, and I'll give you a check for your service. If you could do 5, we'll do 5. All right. Yeah, they'll weigh you when you go in and when you come out. It's nice when you've got local farmers with dump trucks that can do runs and pick stuff up for you. Okay. So I gotta get a hose, drain this thing out of the well house so I'm not dealing with water in here. So I'm going to kick this on and see where this pressure gauge turns on and turns off, because I'm checking the pressure coming, the pressure regulator first. Okay, it's turning off at 50. It's kicking on about 20. Kicking off at 50. So I actually think that where my pressure switch is currently set is fine. Kicking on at 20, kicking off at 50, I'm pleased with that. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to adjust this right now. I'm just going to move on to my tank, which the tank is a much bigger problem. I've got to turn the water off. Because if you don't have pressure in your tank, you're going to lose pressure down your lines. And then you're just putting a lot of wear on your well pump, and you're going to blow up a well pump. So to pressurize the tank, I need to drain the tank first. I don't want to drain my whole house or my whole line, so I'm going to cut off the rest of this. I've got a drain valve here and a flowback valve here, so you know, water is not going to go back into the well. It's just going to come out right here. But I do need to cut this off so that my pump doesn't turn on when I'm trying to get water out of the system. Which means I need to walk back to the house and cut off the breaker. Okay. I got my breaker turned off. So now I'm just going to open this up and drain this tank of any water that's in there. we'll just let that drain for a minute and drink our coffee. Okay, so I've got this thing drained, but when I shake it, I can still hear water in there. And that's not a good sign. What that means is that my water separator inside of this tank is bad. Pretty separate. What I'm going to try and do now, so you have this air valve on the top of your tank. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to run the air compressor a little bit up here, see if it squirts out any more water, and then I'm just going to close everything off and I'm going to pressurize the tank the best I can. Now this is a county line tank. It's an industrial agriculture tank, and so I can replace the water separator inside of here, which is the good news because this is a $600 tank. But I don't have time to do that right now. It's not on my project list. So what I'm probably going to do is just try and get this to somewhat pressurize so that we can move on, and then I'll go to County Line and try and order the part. It's got a phone number right here, and I should be able to find the water separator for this one, and then I'll have to take this apart and take out the bottom, and that's a whole other video. So let's go ahead and see if I can get this thing to pressurize. Use an air compressor to pressurize it. So first I'm going to see if I can squeeze any more water out of this thing. Check this for leaks. That seems to be fine. It appears to be working just fine now. So I ended up giving it a little bit more of a spread between the PSI of the pump and the PSI of the tank. I really need more accurate tools to do this correctly. I'm not sure that the gauge on my the gauge that I have is getting old, the one that's on the compressor. So and I wasn't sure that it was holding pressure the way that I wanted it to. I might have the pump actually kick on a little earlier, but that's going to be an adjustment down in there, which I don't have time to do right now. But if you continue to watch our videos, I'll come back in here and make a few more adjustments to this. I don't want the pump to have to wait until it's down to 20 psi to kick on, because we do have quite a lot of line hooked up to this pump. So I may actually have the pump go up in pressure a little bit, and then I'll pressurize this a little higher. But I need time to check my pump control and make sure that I can go up in PSI, a whole bunch of stuff like that. But right now, this will be sufficient for the house, and Shauna can do dishes and run laundry, and we should have plenty of pressure at the house. I'm going to go check that now, and then I'm going to get back to work on my destroying of our yard project. Okay, so I'm on the last leg of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a T in right here and connect the line going out to my hydrants to the house line, and then connect this to the well line. I need to shut off the well, disconnect this little elbow I put in there last night, and then I'm going to reconnect everything and then turn the well back on. So first thing I need to do is shut off the line going out to the house and try and pump some water through. I'm probably still going to have water come out down here. I'm going to do my best to do this as clean as possible, because last night I got some sand in here, and I don't want to, get any more sand going on. The water that you see here is just groundwater that has kind of nestled its way into the low spots here. I'm gonna make sure there's not too many rocks along where the house line goes. Just rinse this off a little bit. All right, get to work. So I've got everything in the ground. I don't have any leaks. Now I need to get this whole place covered up again, and you know, I'm gonna fill this area here with a lot of sand before I do anything with dirt and gravel. But basically I need to get all of this buried and spread back out, because it's gonna get below freezing tonight. So it's time to get to work. Okay, so I finished fixing the hole in the well. That was the hole in the well line. That was quite fun. I was running lines for another project. I'll post a video on that. And part of that project, later on, I hit again with the tractor and water went everywhere. So needless to say, it's been a rough couple of days. My wife hasn't been too happy. Oh, when I broke the water line to the house, you know, I bury my water lines in sand like this right here, and then put fill dirt and the ground back on top of it. Well, sand and dirt went down into the pipes, got into the house, and we have one of those Rinnai hot water heaters. And well, first of all, there was like sand coming out of every faucet in the house, and then the hot water heater broke, and those things are expensive. So we were without hot water for a couple days. I took the thing apart because there was no way I was going to pay for a service call for my own mistake. And you know, I figured, you know, who couldn't figure this thing out? I don't know if you've ever looked inside of a Rinnai before, but it's like looking inside of a robot. It's got a control panel. It's got all this fancy stuff, all these, you know, interchangeable valves. I would say interchangeable. They're definitely very specific. They're specific valves that all do different things. So this valve came out of our Rinnai. It's actually way back there. I don't know if you can see it back there. It's the, you see the white part of it. When it comes to Rinnai, the valve is way in the back. Cold water is also in the back. So your cold water filter is in the back. It's back there. Everything that could go wrong with this is in the back. So I just had to take the whole thing apart to get to this and replace it. I'm hoping that solved the problem. Now, I did notice that I tried to fix this before. It wasn't working at all. And I got the valve unclogged and I put it back in there, and I forgot to plug in this right here. So this part is more than likely good. Don't tell anybody this, but this part's gonna go in my shelf in a box and some plastic, all, you know, wrapped up nicely after it dries out. And I'm gonna keep this as a spare. I finally ran a bunch of diagnostics, went through some error codes, got that working again. I also came out and checked on my well pressure because I thought the well pressure was too low, and that's why I thought originally that the hot water heater wasn't working. So I adjusted that, and then the next day when it was telling me the valve wasn't closed, I lowered it back down again. I am going to adjust the water pressure back up again. Now I will say this, if you watch YouTube videos, don't believe everything that you hear or see. When you adjust the water pressure in your expansion tank, you don't adjust it 2 degrees below the shutoff. Okay, so I put just about 48 pounds of pressure inside the tank. And now what I'm gonna do is cut the well pump back on. This gauge is currently set to about 48. It should pump it up to 50 and then shut off, and that should have repressurized our tank. You adjust it 2 degrees of pressure below the turn on. And as long as you do that, you'll be fine. If you do it the other way around, it's not going to give you the results you're expecting. I had never done it before. I watched a YouTube video, and it turns out that they were wrong. And the correct way to do it is you adjust your expansion tank's pressure 2 degrees of pressure below the turn on to the well pump. So if your well pump turns on at 20, you'd set it to 18. If it turns on at 30, you'd set it to 28. Now ours right now is set to 2040. I'm going to turn it back to 3050 sometime this week. Anyway, it's been pretty eventful. I'm sorry I haven't caught up with you guys for a while. The world has changed dramatically in the last week or two, and so I do have a lot of great updates, a lot of good information, but man, I have been working my tail off. I don't know, I had a commenter on here the last video I did that said that I was too old to be doing the type of work I did. My truck was too old, it was broken down, you know, that I must be living on a set. I have news for that guy. I do more work in a day than he probably does in a month. When you live on a farm and you have property, or you live on a ranch, there's always something to do. And you know, out here people don't get old that fast because they're working hard. You could have a physically fit farmer that's, you know, 50, 60 years old, put them up next to one of those office workers, and they're gonna look like a He-Man. So I put some sand down in the bottom of our well house because our well house was super dirty, and it was that way when we bought the house. But it always creeped me out to go in here because there was dirt and junk and, you know, spiders, and it was just nasty. So I cleaned it up a bit, and I put sand down because I had some leftover sand to kind of give me a nice clean base. As that dries out, I'll probably smooth it out a little bit, put some bricks on there or something. But it's looking pretty good. I did run a power line in my other project to the well house, so I'll be installing a light inside the well house, a power outlet probably on the outside of the well house, and then and probably one on the inside. I'll probably have a power outlet on the inside, a power outlet on the outside, and then I'll also put some floods on the outside. That way, you know, the well house is easily accessible. So I still have a lot of work to do here. I don't know if you guys watch Wranglerstar. I watched some of his stuff. He recently did a video on a well. Can't remember what it was called, the super simple or the simple well or something like that. But it was basically a hand pump well that you could put in combination with your electric pump, and the leverage that this well had would pump very impressively. I was impressed when I saw it. It made me want one. The problem with those wells is, you know, we have about a 300-foot well, so one of those hand pump wells would cost about $3,000, but when we're going through times like we are right now, and things are constantly changing, and we're realizing now that we all should be a lot more prepared than we have been, having a hand pump well like that would be extremely resourceful. They also, the same company, and I'll post a link below, has solar panel kits that you can put onto your submersible well pump. We have another well on our property that I was going to see if there was water in it. If there's water in it, shock it, and then have it tested. And if it's good, what I was going to do is probably put up a similar system to that, where you have the submersible well and then you've got the hand pump on top. And maybe with the submersible well, actually get one of those solar panel setups so that if the power goes out for an extended period of time, we still have water. And eventually I'd like to switch this system over to basically the same thing, but I don't know where I would put solar panels over here. We have a tree pretty much growing next to our well that's huge. Hasn't affected the well at all, but you know, time will only tell, right? So anyway, I'm caught up for now. I need to go pick up about 30 bags of 50 pounds of concrete and start putting in some footings. I've got projects galore right now, guys, so I'll try and do as much as I can to catch up with you. And you know, there's a lot that we need to talk about. There's actually a what looks like some sort of hospital or temporary structures of some sort being put up by a company that does work in natural disaster zones 9 miles from our house. I'll show you this in this base camp. It's quite fascinating what they're putting together. We are here in North Carolina in a state of emergency, so things are definitely starting to get a little, you know, exciting. But you know, again, with this type of stuff, the main thing that concerns me is the changes that are going to affect us as far as supply, because there's so many supply disruptions right now. It's incredible. But then there appear to be some benefits, like cheap gas. I saw gas today for less than like almost 20 cents below $2. I hadn't seen that price in ages. That was exciting to see. But there are definitely a lot of changes going on around here. So stay tuned, and I'll get you guys updated.